And as Doll would play that song, I would feel the presence of the Lord fill our home, wrapping his love and peace around us. Good morning, everyone. This is Kate with TALKWITHDNK. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and if you're not, I pray it gets better. As you can tell, Doll's not here with me due to his schedule. It's going to be super hectic for him, and he will not be able to join me as much as he used to. However, I am super excited to just dive into the new year with new opportunities, new doors, and new speakers on the podcast. I know that I haven't been on for the past few episodes, and I just wanted to thank each and every one of you guys who have definitely been praying for us. It's been a journey, to say the least. However, I am going to talk about love and loss, a journey of healing and faith. So let's dive right in. In the summer of 2024, the Lord began dealing with me about starting a family. It's something I had always wanted, but it wasn't an urgency, or I wasn't eager to like rush into it. My desire was to enjoy married life with Dawn and experience the world together, first and foremost. However, Dawn was ready to begin a family right away, but God had other plans for us in our lives and our marriage. So a small testimony of mine is that I've already shared with a few of you guys, but not all of you guys. When we first got married, we moved to Kansas in 2017. There's a new chapter for both of us, living together, learning what it meant to be husband and wife, learning our dislikes and our likes and so forth. We started from scratch, like super scratch, living in a small 700 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath apartment. It was cozy, but definitely we were in each other's spaces 24/7. At that time, I had to find a doctor due to me having a cardiologist due to me having a heart condition. The doctor told me that because of my condition, pregnancy wasn't advisable and pregnancy would not likely happen for me. I simply nodded and, went home to tell Doll the news about this, especially the fact that he's always wanted a family. And we just trusted God, knowing he was able to do anything and everything for us, and that we should just lean on him and not on what the doctors may be diagnosing a situation, or putting a diagnosis on me. Over the years, when I talked to God about starting a family, I kept hearing him tell me it would happen when I was 33. So most of you guys don't know, yes, Dawn and I are not in our 20s. He may look 40. No, I'm just kidding. But we are actually not in our 20s. We are actually going mid-30s. So yes, we are in our 30s. However, I held on to the promise, even though everyone around me was so eager for us to start our journey of starting a family. And I would just smile and say, God's timing, which was true. It's definitely God's timing, not our timing. We weren't in a rush. I definitely was not in a rush to start having children, start a family. I definitely wanted to spend my time with Doll and just have those moments with him, to create new moments with him. Fast forward 7 years to to 2024, God began stirring something up in me, the urgency to start a family. I wept in prayer, and each time I came out of it, I felt a peace from the Lord. In July of 2024, after a church event in at the park, we played basketball, played pickleball, all that stuff. We Dawn and I went to our cars with our friends, and our dear friends approached us and suggested we all fast together for me to conceive. Dawn and I agreed, and it was such a blessing to have friends willing to fast on our behalf, especially when they knew that we were especially when they knew that I was starting to have this urgency of wanting to start a family. On September 23rd of 2024, I took a pregnancy test just on a whim, really. I think it was like in the afternoon, and I just decided to take this pregnancy test, and I just wanted to see what it would say, because backtrack is we had a ladies retreat. I believe it was Labor Day weekend. I may be wrong. And the First Lady of Hawaii, which we used to be in her church, which was such a blessing to us, blessing to me, especially because I got to see her, got to fellowship with her, got to, just create new memories with her all over again. So I believe that my friends, our church friends, and new church friends, and all of that, we went to Applebee's, and I started to feel really sick. I think throughout the entire week, I just felt it wasn't nauseous, it wasn't anything, but like my sensitivity to smell and to food and everything just like enhanced 1,000%. And I didn't know what was going on. I just thought it was just like because I'm normally sensitive to those things anyways, but it like increased to the point where I was like, whoa, like I could be in like a different I could be outside and I could just smell it inside, sort of thing. And no, it's not superpowers or whatever, but so on September 23rd of 2024, I took a pregnancy test on a whim. It showed 2 lines. One very faint, and the difference between a faint line and an evaporated line, I just want to get into that, is that a faint line is a positive pregnancy test, positive pregnancy result. And an evaporated line is a result that's negative. So pretty much the pregnancy test of an evaporated line, it's just a bad test in general. That's as easy I can explain it. So I know I shouldn't have, but I was so unsure about it, and I was debating to send it to my friends, but I also didn't want my friends to be the first one to know the results. If I was seeing like something else, but I actually sent it to Dahl, and I know I probably shouldn't have, but he was at work and he was like freaking out, and he's like, "Oh, you're pregnant," and I was like, "Whoa, like I don't want us to like be." I didn't want us to be sorry about this. I didn't want us to like get overly excited if it wasn't a positive test. So I had to explain to him like, hey, I just want you to know that like there's a difference between a faint line and an evaporated line. And I know that you see the 2 lines the way that I do, but just to make sure, I'll take another one tomorrow. And he understood the need to take another test just to be like 100% sure. So the next morning, September 24th, of 2024, I took a digital test. When it showed yes, the digital test said yes. And it was 5:30 in the morning, and I had to use the restroom. So the digital test said yes, and I was I just stood there. What seemed to be like a forever thing, waiting for the results to come back. It was only a 2 minute waiting period, and I just stood there in shock, like absolute shock. And I was just in the restroom, like, should I tell Doll, or should I create something like a gift for him so he can like open it up and be like, oh, you're pregnant, or should I record his reaction? What should I do? Like, I was just in shock. I didn't know what to do. 5:30 in the morning, and I'm just like, what's going on, right? Well, Doll was actually still sleeping, I just was debating because I felt bad if I woke him up at 5:30 in the morning, because he didn't have to be at work until 8:30, 9 o'clock. So um so I decided to actually wake him up immediately after taking the test, or after debating on whether to show him or not. And I showed him, and he groggily said, "Yay!" and went back to sleep. And I couldn't sleep though. I was pacing around our bedroom and unable to contain my excitement. Um, Sorry. This is gonna be a difficult episode. Um, Eventually, I started jumping for joy and thanking Jesus for this precious blessing. Before we knew, uh, before we even knew about the news, Doll would often come home and play the song "Goodness of God" on the piano. And if you guys have not heard that song, I highly recommend you guys look it up on YouTube. It's by Jen Johnson or Bethel. Um, it's such a beautiful song that glorifies God. And um, I didn't know I was pregnant at the time. I began feeling all these symptoms: fatigue, hunger, lightheadedness. And as Doll would play that song, I would feel the presence of the Lord fill our home, wrapping his love and peace around us. It was a it was a fulfilled promise. It was a promise fulfilled. But I also clearly remembered God telling me that I would lose this child. And as much as I prayed against it, I knew that God's will would be done. And as much as I fought, declaring like, no, this God doesn't want us to go through this and all of that, God's plan for us is essential, vital, beneficial to say. um, we shared the good news with our family, our friends. Some cried, some rejoiced, and some were even in shock. But I was pregnant, and it was so hard to believe it. But I was pregnant. And every single day, every single morning, or every single day that Doll would come home, I would just look at him and say, I'm pregnant. I'm truly pregnant, and it's a promise fulfilled by the Lord. Sorry. We were traveling in October, visiting Alabama, Georgia, California, New Mexico. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't. On October 5th of 2024, after our trip to New Mexico, we went to the ER. The doctor confirmed that I was 1 month and 6 days pregnant, and everything appeared to be fine. Both baby and I were healthy individuals. Something I just wanted to share is being pregnant was the most beautiful feeling that I've ever felt before. I can't even describe the kind of love that I felt for our baby growing inside of me. Even in those early days, I believe God allowed me to experience His heart for me through the love I felt for our little one, for our little one. But then just a few weeks later, I began feeling pain that wasn't normal. It was more than cramps. I rushed to the restroom, and sure enough, I started bleeding. I went back to the ER, and although the doctor reassured us that it was normal for women to bleed the first trimester, I knew something wasn't right. Like I knew in all of me, like in just everything, my whole mind, my whole soul, like everything of me. I knew it wasn't right. But we chose to trust God no matter what happened. On October 13th of 2024, I was in pain and bleeding more heavily. So we went back to the ER for a third time. And as we drove, I just began weeping. And as we got closer and closer and closer to the ER room, closer to the hospital, I just began to weep, and I heard God speak peace to my spirit, telling me that it was going to be okay. I knew deep down that we were going to lose this baby. My heart was breaking, but I kept reminding Doll, we're not going to grow bitter. We're not going to grow bitter. We're going to be okay. After tests, and ultrasounds and blood works and all of that, like I was so exhausted. I to be honest, I absolutely wanted to pull every machine off of me and just go home, because I was so over it. I was absolutely over just being in the hospital for such a long time. We were actually there for 12 hours, 12 long hours. But after all of those tests, the exams, the ultrasounds, the blood work, everything, the doctor delivered the news that we feared. He said I was miscarrying. And I remember looking at Doll, and we didn't cry in that moment. We just smiled and nodded, declaring that God was still good. The nurse, our nurse at that time, she's such a sweet young lady, was concerned because we weren't upset. We were filled with peace, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. Even in our pain, we knew God was good. The doctor gave us pamphlets and suggested therapy, but we knew that our healing would come through our trust in God and the love of our church family. It was incredibly difficult to share the news with our family and friends. Doll reached out to our pastors and mentors, and the love and support we received were overwhelming. They couldn't be with us physically, but their prayers and care meant everything to us. I learned that God doesn't want us to walk through loss alone. He wants to heal us and send people to surround us in prayer. One of the hardest parts of this journey was not only losing the baby, but having to share the news over and over and over again, reliving the heartbreak each time. Through this process, I was reminded of the words from Job chapter 1 verse 21. And I just want to read this to you guys in the King James Version. Naked I come out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord had taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Just as Job chose to worship even in his loss, we chose to worship. In the hospital room, despite the devastating news, we thank God, and peace filled that entire space. In that moment, I understood the importance of not allowing myself to grow or become bitter or angry with God. Loss is hard, but blaming God doesn't change the reality of the situation. We held each other up in prayer, knowing that this was a moment of surrender. The next morning, my OBGYN called with alarming news. She said the ER misdiagnosed me. Yeah. And I was experiencing an ectopic pregnancy, not a miscarriage. I felt overwhelmed by medical discussions and needed time to process, just process everything, because we, like how I said earlier, we spent 12 hours in the ER, and then the next morning getting a call from my OBGYN at 7, 8 in the morning, saying that the ER doctors misdiagnosed me. It was just a lot to process at that time, and I just felt like I couldn't breathe, like I didn't know what to do. I just felt overwhelmed by the news, overwhelmed by what was being told by us. So I just wanted to explain, an ectopic pregnancy occurs when a fertilized egg is implanted outside of the womb. So when it's supposed to be inside, it's actually outside. And it can be in your fallopian tube or your ovaries and your cervix and so forth. And that can be life-threatening for not only the baby, but also for the woman who is carrying that child. So the same day, a dear friend text us, sharing her own experience with loss. And with her sharing her experience, it's not like I felt alone at that time, but I felt like God wrap his arms around me, saying that you're not alone. I felt God saying there's people that are here with you, surrounding you and lifting you up in prayer. Like he was reminding me that there's people out there that cares and love for you, no matter what you're going through. Even if you choose to close your doors in wanting to receive people's love and so forth, they were still lifting you up. That was the reminder that the Lord was giving me as I was receiving text messages and calls and packages at our door. He just continued to remind me how important people were in our lives actually. But as my friend was, she was sharing her experience with loss, and something that really stood out to me that she texted, and I'm not going to read the entire text because that's very personal, but I'm just going to put it on here, is I don't know why God chose us to feel such love and loss. I may never know why, but I do know that there has always been a plan for our lives. That message was so timely and reminded me that there's purpose even in pain. So I'm just going to repeat that because I just felt that very boldly in my spirit is that there's purpose even in the pain. We may not understand everything, but God has a plan. If you're going through loss or trauma, don't let it be something you suffer in silence. Allow God to heal you and be open to the support of those around you. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's a strength that allows God to work through you and those who care about you. About you. And you know, there is and this is where the body of Christ becomes so crucial in our journey of healing. I'm reminded of the story of Mark in Mark chapter 2, verse 3 through 11, where a paralyzed man is brought to Jesus by his friends. The man couldn't get to Jesus on his own, but his friends did everything they could to make sure he encountered the healing power of Jesus Christ. They climbed up on the roof, right? Tore it open and lowered him down before Jesus. When Jesus saw their faith, he healed that man. When Jesus saw their faith, not the man's faith, but his friend's faith, he healed that man. This story highlights the importance of community in the healing process. Just like the paralyzed man, we may find ourselves in situations where we can't heal on our own. We need others to lift us up, to bring us before Jesus. We can't do it ourselves. As much as we think that we can't do any of the healing process ourselves. In those moments of vulnerability and support, that's God's power can work most effectively. Just as the paralyzed man's friends helped him receive healing, the body of Christ, our church family, our mentors, our pastors' wives, our friends, supports us during our most difficult times. Their prayers, encouragement, and presence are a lifeline. The healing journey isn't meant to be walked alone. And having others to stand with us in faith and love is a powerful testament of God's grace. It's a powerful testament of God's grace. You know, something that Mickey Magnan, sorry, I probably butchered that. Something that Mickey Magnan once said, "I will recover loudly so that others don't have to recover silently." This resonated deeply with me. It reminded me that even in the hardest moments, it's important to share our pain and healing journey with others. We are not meant to suffer alone. We are not meant to suffer alone. And I just want to keep emphasizing that we are not meant to suffer alone. Because when we get in a place of isolation, it's so dangerous because we push not only people away, but also God. And that's where we need to be careful. And that's why God wants us to understand that we are not meant to suffer things alone. We need the body of Christ. We need our leadership. We need the people of God. We need those who are willing to lift us up, like the four friends, like the friends that lifted the man to Jesus. We need people like that. We're not meant to suffer alone. You know, I know that I'm sharing something very, very deep. And by sharing this story, my hope is to provide comfort, strength, and encouragement to those who may be facing similar heartaches. Recovery is not silent. It's a journey we walk together, sharing our pain, our victories, and our hope in Jesus Christ. If you're walking through a season of loss or any type of season at all, I encourage you to lean into the Lord. Be vulnerable and allow others to support you in prayer. You are never alone. You are never alone. And I just want to repeat that you are never alone, for He is close to the brokenhearted. So I just want to end it here with the trust in His plan. Even when it doesn't make sense, trust in His plan. He's always good and He is always faithful. Allow God to heal you. Allow others to be there for you. Trust in His timing and remember He is good, even when the road is hard. So that's all I have for you guys today. I pray that you guys were encouraged and blessed. And there will be part 2 in the next couple weeks. God is always good, and God bless.